What's up, Wargamers? This is Captain Nathan Tidwell, recording at the Krulak Center for Innovation and Future Warfare. Today we'll be going over Company Commander Modern, the tactical level digital wargame being used for our Top Tactics 24 tournament. Before we jump into the tutorial, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, which is also home of the Brutecast series. The Brutecast is the Krulak Center's podcast designed to connect the world of the warfighter with the best of innovative and creative thought. Now, without further ado, let's dive into Company Commander Modern. We'll start here on the Hex War homepage. At the homepage, click on the Games tab. Under Games, we will find the full suite of Hex War digital wargames available on the Wargaming Cloud. Select Company Commander. This will bring up the various versions of Company Commander, which span a variety of eras and geographic regions. To find the scenarios that will be used for the Top Tactics 24 tournament, select 2025. Scroll down to the bottom of the list to find the Emerson Lake scenarios. Round 1 of the tournament will be played in the Emerson Lake Classic SQ scenario, which has the Blue Force using a Legacy Rifle Company's task organization. Round 2, on the other hand, will be played in the Emerson Lake SQ scenario, which has the Blue Force using a Future Rifle Company TO. In this tutorial, we'll use the Future scenario to showcase the controls and basic game mechanics of Company Commander Modern. In this video, I'll be playing a local game, and rather than use the in-game AI as an opponent, I'm going to play both sides to showcase how to control certain units unique to each force. When I click Play Now, the game will take a moment to load, and then the map will appear. The game begins with the deployment phase. This is an opportunity for players to orient their forces however they wish within the deployment zone. Click and drag to move around the map and use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Upon selecting a unit during the deployment phase, in this case a Chinese UAS, all available hexes within the deployment zone will be shown. Simply click on the desired hex and the selected unit will automatically move there. Since I'm starting off deploying red forces, I will use this as an opportunity to display some of the unique game mechanics of the mechanized force. When I click on this ZBD-05, a Chinese infantry fighting vehicle, a cargo button appears below the unit information. Clicking on the cargo button allows me to deploy the IFV's dismounts anywhere in the deployment zone. Note that this ability to offload dismounts a significant distance from the vehicles is only available during the deployment phase. Once the game starts, the distance from the vehicles that dismounts can be deployed is much more limited. If I change my mind and decide I want them mounted, I just select the dismounts and then click on their IFV to load them back up. Using the same mechanics, I can deploy a QW3 manpad from one of my Type 92 Etienne if I want to. Once I have my forces arrayed to my desire, I click End Deployment. Now it's time to set up my blue forces. Remember, in an actual game during the tournament, you won't be privy to your opponent's deployment phase. I'll start off by moving up my Medium Organic Precision Fires, or OPFM, to the front of my formation. Notice that as I move the loitering munitions up, some shadow is dispelled from the map. The shadow represents the fog of war, and I will not be able to see any enemy units in the shadowy areas of the map when the game begins. The blue force is primarily mounted on ULTVs. Unlike the Chinese IFVs, which have crewmen to operate the vehicle and dismounts in the back that can offload and maneuver separately, the Marines mounted on the ULTVs can operate either mounted or dismounted, but not both. This is particularly important to note for my mounted mortars, javelins, and OPF. To toggle between being mounted or dismounted, click the switch button that appears to the left of the unit information. Before I end my Blue Force deployment phase and start the game, there's one last thing I need to cover, and that's max effective range. You may have noticed that as I select a unit, orange lines appear around and beyond that unit. These orange lines denotate the max range that the selected unit can attack. This is an important consideration in the deployment phase because it shows you what areas you can affect at the onset of the game. For instance, when I dismount my 81mm mortars and have access to the mortars themselves rather than just the machine gun mounted on the LTV, notice how the unit's attack range changes. With that, we'll end the deployment phase and begin the actual game. See that all my units are surrounded by pulsing blue hexes. The blue hex is an indication of the unit's ability to act. I'll start off by pushing my OPF further north. As you can see, by moving my OPF nearer to the enemy, I gain situational awareness. Furthermore, the OPF serves as observers for fires, so I can now affect more enemy with artillery and airstrikes. This is a great segue into off-map fire support. In addition to the M777s at the bottom of the map, the Blue Force also has an F-35 airstrike on call. To utilize the F-35, click on the button on the right side of the screen that displays an aircraft, and then select a target. Potential targets will be indicated by pulsing red hexes. The green circle to the top left of the target annotates the percentage chance to hit that target. In this case, the F-35 has a 90% chance of hitting this Type 99 main battle tank. As with standard attack controls, I just click on the target I want to attack and the game will adjudicate. The M777 howitzers operate in a similar fashion. After I click on the artillery unit, potential targets are highlighted along with their respective hit probability. Along with high explosive munitions, artillery and mortars can fire smoke rounds for obscuration. Smoke rounds can be fired on any hex on the map within range. I'll demonstrate by dropping smoke just south of this ZSL-92B reconnaissance vehicle. Before I end my turn by clicking the End Turn button, I'll dismount the Marines on this ULTV who have an OPF-L, or Organic Precision Fires Light. This will set up an opportunity to showcase the mechanics of drone launching on the next blue turn. We now see the map from the Red Force perspective. With all the vehicles massed behind this terrain, the Red Force has very little situational awareness of the southern portion of the Emerson Lake corridor. By pushing this UAS further south, much of the fog of war is eliminated. While we already covered the deploying dismounts earlier, I'll show you the in-game difference in terms of deployment range. When I select this ZSL, the gray and green hexes indicate potential positions the vehicle can move to. When I click the cargo button, however, you'll see I get a slightly smaller region of hexes to deploy my dismounts within. Note that the vehicle can still move even after dismounts have been deployed. Shifting to indirect fires, the Chinese PLZ-05 have the same attack mechanics to include smoke as the Blue Force artillery and mortars. Just know that while the PLZ-05 is self-propelled, it cannot move and fire in the same turn. Before I end this red turn and finish out the tutorial by showing you how to launch drones, I want to draw your attention back to the max effective range rings. As we've already discussed, you can select friendly units to see how far their weapon systems reach. What I didn't mention is that you can do the same thing with visible enemy units. I can click on these 81s and see which of my units, if any, are in range. This is a great planning tool because it lets you see what areas of the map the enemy can affect. Switching back over to blue, let's go over how to launch drones. Remember that I dismounted this unit in the previous turn so that I could launch the drone now. The fact that a unit cannot deploy a drone in the same turn that it dismounts is an important planning consideration. When I select the unit, you can see that there is now a drone button to the left of the unit information. After clicking the drone button, very faint blue hexes appear to indicate where the drone can be deployed. Notice that while the unit that launched the drone cannot take any further action, the drone is immediately ready to move. And that's it. With that, we've covered all the basic controls and game mechanics you need to play Company Commander Modern. Note that there are also in-game instructions that you can reference while playing. Thank you for taking the time to watch this tutorial. If you have questions or need additional technical support, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information can be found at the bottom of the Top Tactics 24 Mara admin that was published earlier this month. I look forward to seeing you in the tournament, and thanks again for joining us on the cutting edge of wargaming.